So I would like, my topic is the kidney transplant, the battle beyond rejections and managing infections. So this is a case of a 67-year-old male, known case of hypertension since more than 20 years.
Slide is not moving, Dr. Kripa, and it is not a full screen also.
So it's moved at my end.
Is it?
Yes, sir.
I don't know about others. Maybe mine is faulty.
It is not in presentation mode. I think best thing is to just stop sharing and reshare. Sometimes this happens.
So I'm not able to show you. Is it visible now, sir?
It is visible, but not in the presentation mode. So you continue with what you have. Okay.
Our IT team can help. Rahul, can you help on this? Our IT team, Rahul.
I think you can click on the whichever slide you want to present will come on screen.
Yes, sir.
That will be better. Carry on the presentation.
So the patient is a 67-year-old male, known case of hypertension for more than 20 years, developed end-stage kidney disease,
So
likely...
click on this slide number 2, no? Then will come on the screen. But I think for you it is full screen, huh?
So for me, the slide is already moved.
But it is not moving here. Yeah, now it has come.
Okay, so I'll continue in this mode only. Then.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Right, Prabha.
He developed end-stage kidney disease, likely secondary to ischemic nephropathy. He had a dialysis vintage of around 4 months. He had undergone a ABO incompatible blood group AB to A, the wife being the donor, a living donor renal transplant on 25th of October 2024. His anti-B titers were low, and so the plex was not planned, and an induction agent of rituximab with basiliximab was given. If there was an immediate graft function post-surgery with a discharge creatinine of 1.15 milligrams per deciliter. 1 month post-transplant, that is in November 2024, the routine labs showed UTI. The urine culture grew CRE Klebsiella pneumoniae, which was pan-resistant to all the antibiotics except fosfomycin, and synergy testing was negative. Though he was asymptomatic, his graft function was stable with creatinine of 1 milligrams per deciliter, and hence he was treated with fosfomycin for 5 days. The screening lab showed persistent pyuria thereafter, hence the MMF dose was reduced from 2 grams daily to 1 gram daily. He was initiated on phosphomycin prophylaxis once a week, which was continued for next 3 months in view of the next routine lab showing persistent pyuria. The prophylaxis was stopped after reduction in the pus cells in the urine microscopy screening. During each OPD visit, the routine investigation showed a gradual decline in the total leukocyte count with declining pus cells in the urine microscopy. Also, the patient continued to complain of decreased appetite and gradual weight loss at each visit. Symptomatic treatment was given, but it was of no benefit. The MMF dose was further reduced from 1 gram daily to 500 milligram daily in view of persistent pyuria and declining total leukocyte count. So made a tabular representation of his routine OPD labs at every visit, starting from his transplant done in the month of October, November, December, and up till the Jan. There was persistent leukopenia, which I've highlighted, with the other two cell lines of hemoglobin and platelets being more or less normal. The urine showed persistent pyuria, initially treated with fosfomycin, and then when on prophylaxis, the pus cells kept on declining. And also a weight loss, which had in a span of 2.5 months had declined from 71 kgs to 64.5 kgs. Over the first 3 months post-transplant, patient continued to develop the decreased appetite and gradual weight loss, which was around 6 kgs in 2.5 months. So screening for BKV infection was done in view of persistent pyuria, which was negative, and CMV PCR screening was done in view of leukopenia, which also came out to be negative. The examination revealed oral candidiasis, which was treated with topical antifungals. A ogidoscopy was done in view of persistent complaints of decreased oral intake, but it turned out to be normal. There was no evidence of any esophageal candidiasis. The patient in the month of January 2025, which is almost 2.5 months post-transplant, he started complaining of fever, which was high grade, not associated with chills or any rigors. The urine culture and blood culture were sterile. The ultrasound of the abdomen as well as the transplant kidney were reported as normal. He was continued on the antibiotic prophylaxis for the asymptomatic pyuria, which was present at each lab. In view of the persistent fever with unknown source on preliminary investigation, a PET scan was planned. So these are the PET images which showed a high FDG uptake in the prostatic area, which was highly suggestive of inflammatory or infective cause, query reported to be a prostatic abscess. Also, there was irregular FDG uptake in the omentum with mild irregular omentum thickening and free fluid collection in the perihepatic spaces. In view of the given report and the prostatic abscess, the patient underwent cystoscopy with transurethral resection of the prostate and deroofing of the abscess. Also, at the same time, a CT guided aspiration of the free fluid in the perihepatic space was done, and the sample was sent for routine analysis and culture. The pus culture from the prostatic abscess revealed CRE Klebsiella pneumonia, which was treated with third generation sensitive cephalosporins for a total duration of 14 days IV. The ascitic fluid analysis was negative for the gene export, ADA, cytology, as well as the bacterial and AFB culture. The patient did not report any past history of tuberculosis or malignancy. In spite of treating with the appropriate culture-sensitive antibiotics, the patient continued to have fever spikes. The total leukocyte count continued to be on a declining trend. There was an initial contemplation regarding the PET report of irregular uptake in the omentum, but since the source of fever was undetermined, we went ahead with the ultrasound-guided omental biopsy, which showed some FDG uptake on the PET scan. To our surprise, the histopathology had revealed the granulomatous Mycobacterium tuberculosis, and it was reported to be an omental TB. So he was started on anti-tuberculosis treatment in around 17th of Feb 2025 with a 4-drug intensive phase. He, however, developed the transaminitis 2 weeks after initiation of treatment, and so rifampicin and pyrazinamide was held. The LFTs gradually stabilized after stopping the drugs, and gradual initiation of the rifampicin and pyrazinamide was done. Gradually, the patient showed symptomatic improvement in fever, his appetite increased, and he started to gain weight. So currently, 2 months post anti-tuberculosis treatment, the patient is doing well on the 4 anti-TB drugs along with the tacrolimus, high-dose oral steroids, and we have now reinitiated him on low dose of mycophenolate mofetil. He is maintaining a stable graft function. But to our surprise, the latest update is today the patient got admitted with a random sugars of 550 milligrams per deciliter. Possibly we are contemplating a NODAT. So I would like to summarize saying the kidney transplantation in elderly patients is a complex process, and managing infections is a crucial aspect of the post-transplant care. Elderly patients are more susceptible to infections due to age-related decline in immune function, comorbidities, the immunosuppressive therapy received in the form of induction as well as the maintenance, any previous infections or colonization with resistant organisms, donor-derived infections. The intensity of immunosuppression is a significant predictor of infection risk in the elderly patients. Infections, however, remain the most common complications post-transplant. Consider it in the early phase, which is less than 1 month, 1 to 6 months, or more than 6 months. So these are the list of infections which are most commonly to be looked after. So tuberculosis post-transplant is indeed a significant concern for the renal transplant patients in India. It affects approximately 11.8 to 14.6% of the renal transplant recipients in India. The extrapulmonary TB and disseminated TB are more common than the pulmonary TB in the solid organ transplant patients. TB can occur anytime within the first year post-transplant with a median time to diagnosis of 24 months. TB can present with a diverse clinical manifestations, making it essential to have a high index of suspicion for timely diagnosis. The TB infection in either the pre or the post-transplant period, however, does not significantly affect the graft and the patient survival. Omental tuberculosis, on the other hand, is a rare disease which can mimic as gastrointestinal malignancies. The histology is, however, the confirmatory diagnostic tool. Medical management is the treatment of choice for omental TB. Surgery is needed when the complications occur in the extrapulmonary TB. Risk factors for TB in the transplant candidates include the donor-derived TB, coexisting infections, induction agents, and maintenance immunosuppression, the intensification of the immunosuppressants which are received during episodes of rejection. So my takeaway points would be that implementing preventive strategies such as antimicrobial prophylaxis, vaccination, and careful monitoring of immunosuppression levels can reduce the infection risk. Adjust immunosuppressive regimen to minimize the infection risk in the elderly. Regularly monitor patients for signs of infection. Multidisciplinary care collaborating with a multi-speciality team, including transplant surgeons, nephrologists, and infectious disease specialists to optimize the patient care.